Devastating news for the Kings and their fans released this afternoon. But before we get into that, let's talk about what happened yesterday afternoon as we've got a 2-2 series. Just like that, this is a whole different game. Let's start with Draymond. The return of Draymond. He graciously suggested to come off the bench. And hey, and Steve Kerr was thinking the same thing. No, I think they played that very smoothly. It really doesn't matter who came up with it, right? It's the optics around it. And not to count Draymond's pockets, right? But we all know this could be a free agent summer for him. And this is just a bad look, right? This is a bad situation, no matter how you manage it as far as his value moving forward, whether it's for the Warriors or just on the free agent market. And so I thought that optically, made him look like a good teammate. Not that he isn't at times, right? So the game starts again with Jordan Poole as the fifth Warriors. Spread them out. The offense worked. And here's the thing, man. Jordan, he doesn't even get in a stance, fam. Like there are plays, and I know I'm a older cat here as far as like the principles of the game, and I'm somewhat of a purist. I like some fundamental basketball, right? But like he doesn't even drop into a stance. He just trots along the guy and kind of like does this, and it's just maddening to me. However, yesterday afternoon, Jordan Poole, his juice was worth the squeeze on the other end. He played exactly how the Warriors needed him to play offensively. Now, that first quarter, they were launching three after three, and they were difficult ones, but they were dropping, right? But Poole, that third quarter, his ability to get to the line, he got a fourth foul on Fox, right? But he continued to attack downhill. And so as frustrating as the defense is, if he can play with that mindset offensively, get to the foul line and be efficient, be an efficient big scorer, then again, the juice is worth the squeeze. So that's that. Poole played well in the start despite the defense. He gave him enough offensively. Now, you look at the other end of things, I think the big bright spot for Sacramento, Keegan Murray showed up to the party, right? And, I think what happens sometimes with a player is he was playing so bad that he eventually just kind of relieved the pressure from himself. It was like, at this point, I have nothing to lose. I haven't given my team anything. And so now I'm just going to play free, F it, right? And I think that's what you saw from Keegan Murray. I want to say young Keegan Murray, but what is he, like 25? No, he's like 22, right? He's an old rookie. But with his size and that quick release, that's very difficult to guard, right? Because he's kind of one of these guys that's always open on the three-point line, again, because of the size and the release. But the unintended consequences of playing Murray, 30-plus minutes, if that's what Mike Brown's going to do moving forward, is not as much Davion Mitchell on Steph. He got a little breathing room, a little more rhythm. He wasn't on him the entire time, right? That's a spot that's going to be taken up by someone who, by the way, as good as he is as a shooter, is another place to attack on the other end. And you saw Poole do it and various Warriors do it because Keegan, not only is he a rookie, he doesn't have NBA experience, but he's a bigger perimeter player, right? And then he's kind of stiff. So you combine all those things and that looks like a snack on an island when he's defending. Now, if you've been following the channel, you know that a lot of these videos are sponsored by So Rare NBA. It's an online card collecting game, basically playing fantasy basketball. They're NFTs. You get to keep the cards. You can win gift cards, sign jerseys, compete against me in my league. It's free. You can build your own leagues. You don't have to compete against me. But I want to ask you, you can see my lineup here. Tatum or Ja? Now, obviously, I'm playing both of them here, but if you were building a team, right? And I think the consensus is kind of like, hey, Tatum is the bigger guy. He has, he's been to the finals. He's won more. But to me, Tatum is missing that it factor that Ja has. Like when it's crunch time, when the lights are bright, you're going to get a great performance out of Ja, where Tatum tends to disappear under the bright lights. But it's kind of ironic, right? I've got 3 Grizzlies and then a Laker here to finish out my lineup, but I don't have any Warriors or Kings. Otherwise, I'd probably be pumping my lineup with that. So I got to continue to build my deck. But that's So Rare NBA. The link's in the description. Help the channel out and join my league. Now, what about Kevin Hurerter? Someone who I picked as the X factor in this series. He just hasn't shown up. And I talked about it in today's breakdown. I think what's happening with Hurerter is, like, I remember the early games against the Kings in the season. Remember, we played him like 2 times in November. And I remember going through the tape and I'm like, this dude doesn't even try on defense. Like he's Jordan Poole-ish when it comes to effort defensively. At least he is, I think, during the regular season. And I think what we're seeing from Hurerter is he's trying to dig in and defend. He knows it's playoff time and he's trying to give that effort on the defensive end, but the cost of that is I don't think he has his legs offensively. He's not a two-way player, and he's decided to reprioritize where he's spending his legs. And so the shot hasn't been there. It's like, was he like 3 of 25 from 3-point range? But I think that's what we're seeing with Hurter. Now, we've also heard grumblings of Kuminga kind of pouting behind the scenes for his lack of playing time. And what did he play, like 3 minutes yesterday? And he just didn't look ready to play, unfortunately. And, is he not, right? Does he not know if he's going to check in? You'd imagine the staff is going to tell him, hey, we're going to put you in to start the second quarter. So be ready. Those are going to be your minutes. You play good, we'll play you again in the second half. You'd hope that's what the conversation or the dialogue would be with young Kuminga. But it almost seems as if they're just like, hey, stay ready, man. Stay ready. You never know. You might get in there. Stay ready, right? And everybody's different. Like that may work with Moody, but Kuminga, not so much, right? And so his little 3-minute stint, I don't blame them for taking him out, but I also kind of question, again, behind the scenes, how they're communicating what his role could possibly be because he just didn't look ready. So second half starts and Draymond starts and he starts on De'Aaron Fox. And you just saw this combination of length, experience, and IQ, understanding the patterns of Fox, his tendencies, how he's going to rise up into his shot, where he wants to. And then let's be honest, there's a little bit of a psychological factor when you're an offensive player. And look, I'm not taking nothing away from Fox. He's fearless. But when Draymond's in front of you, I suspect it feels a little different than an Andrew Wiggins or whoever else, even a GP2. There's a reputation and there's an energy, a psychology that Draymond brings, like, okay, you want to talk trash? Let's go. I'm in front of you now, right? And so it slowed Fox down in that second half. That was just a back and forth barn burner. I guess if we want to talk about adjustments and things, see, I'm getting real coachy with y'all here, X's and O's, because everybody can give their take. Oh my God, the end of the game, it was wild. And I think this, I'm actually giving you the details of this, man. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, man, because I really do this. Anyway, let's talk about what the Warriors did offensively in the second half. Did you notice the inverted pick and roll? They had Steph setting the screen and Draymond with the ball. And then sometimes they just flip it back into a handoff. And I think that's a wrinkle that's going to cause some problems for the Kings moving forward. One, it peels Davion Mitchell off of Steph. Well, he's not coming off him anyway, right? Let's be honest. But they can't leave Steph on the screen. And so Draymond, who already has a foot speed advantage on Sabonis, or probably even their other perimeter guys, he's going to have a step on them turning the corner downhill because both of them kind of have to stick with Steph. What if he slips it? It puts so much pressure out in space when Steph's setting the screen on the ball. And so that inverted pick and roll in the second half, I thought they had success with that. I think we'll see more of that as the series goes on. Let's talk about the end sequence here. There was a couple things. The Poole turnover late. I was surprised he was in the game. I'm going to be honest with you. Just the track record this year, the history of it, it was like, dang, it was just making me nervous. But the turnover he had where they had the 5-on-4 or whatever it was, a couple of things. Everybody's telling him to go, push the pace. So now he's already kind of not making his own decision. And then two, that was a hell of a play by Monk. That was a hell of a like Spider-Man. That was like an Odell. Because Poole actually used his eyes. He looked him off towards Steph, and he tried to sneak it to Clay. So I thought that was a better play by Monk than a bad play by Poole. Now, the challenge. Kerr's been pretty good this year. And, this was something that we haven't seen or we haven't talked as much about is when you look at Monk and you look at Hurerter in particular, when they're fighting over the top of the screens, they're really trying to sell out, right? They're going to try to sprint off it and even find Looney's shoulder and try to sell that foul. And Monk's having success with it because he is so fast and so athletic. He's getting there a little bit before Looney. Hurter, not so much. He doesn't have the foot speed. But that's part of their game plan, and they got that call. And then you have this bang-bang challenge where sometimes, let's just be honest, the arena is up in arms about it. Looney's mad. Draymond's on the sideline doing the signal, right? And Kerr, I think the emotions got the best of him, and he's like, let's challenge it. F it, let's challenge it, right? When logically, when you think about it, it's like, that's a bang-bang play. You're probably not going to win that. And so the timeout, their final timeout is evaporated in a weird way. in a weird way, right? Because I think usually what happens is when a coach down the stretch calls their final timeout, within that timeout, you have him and the assistants like, hey, that was it. That's our final timeout. No more, right? And so they didn't get to necessarily have that conversation right away because it was taken away on a challenge. But, it's funny when you look at Steph taking the timeout, and it's weird because Steph rarely takes the timeout. It's like, how often does Steph, there's been so many times in the past where he does get trapped and you're like, just take a timeout. And here comes the hook pass, right? And Steph was like, no, not this time. But if you look to the bench, Andre's actually calling for it too. So to me, as difficult of a situation as it is, I think it's a 50-50 thing. You would have hoped Steph would have realized the situation, but you understand why he didn't know we didn't have one. And then Kerr, at every stoppage, I think that the job would be him and his staff to reiterate, hey, we don't have any. But when you have a loud arena like that, it's a lot different, man. You see it at the lower level a lot, like high school. There's coaches that try to coach every possession, right? And their voice is essentially like a sixth man on the floor. But then you get in like a loud, hostile gym, and all of a sudden you can't hear that voice, and it hurts that team. So you have to put trust in the team and to not always hear your voice. They have to make the call. I digress. And so, yeah, Barnes gets the final shot. I thought it was in. It felt like a fitting end. When you look at the way this season has gone, it was like, here we go again. This is it, right? And he misses the shot, obviously. You heard the quote from Draymond, we've seen this movie before. I don't love it. I don't love the quote. Hey, if that was the end of the series, like that was it, we put him away, fine. But I don't love, giving the bulletin board material. I will say they know him much better than I, and it can work for you, it can work against you, right? Sometimes when you trash talk a guy, it backfires on you. It depends how they're wired. And perhaps with Barnes, they know the more trash they talk, like the worse he'll perform. He's uncomfortable with that, right? I mean, Barnes looks like he eats with a bib on still, right? He's so buttoned up, maybe he's not comfortable with that trash talk. And so we'll see if, how Barnes responds to missing those two big shots. All right, let's get to the news today. De'Aaron Fox, fractured index finger, the left hand, the shooting hand. Most guys are index shooters. That's where you generate most of your power off the index finger. The only thing worse would be the thumb, right? If the thumb, then now you can't even really grip the ball. It's bad, man. You imagine he's going to try to play through it, but is that a scenario where it actually hurts the Kings if he's inefficient and he can't shoot his shot because of it? So, I don't know. I would be dishonest with you if I wasn't like, okay. And like, there's a part of me that's happy and excited because, hey, it gives my team a better chance to move on. And the people that get righteous and say, hey, I'd never wish, I didn't wish it on him. But now that it's here, it's like, well, damn, now we got an even better chance. That's just the reality of the situation. But at the same time, the kid's had such a breakout season. And so I feel bad for him. But at the same time, I'm happy for Dub Nation and the Warriors' chances, right? So again, I imagine he'll try to play, but at what point, how much does it compromise his shooting touch? Because the index finger is tough. And you talk about Fox in that mid-range game. I guess one adjustment that I'm curious with is, do they want to go under that screen, especially like the pistol actions, the handoffs where he comes flying off? His game isn't really to kind of like stop and pop on the move. You notice most of his threes are kind of like set at a slower pace. And so I wonder if Wiggins and GP2 and these guys on the handoffs off Sabonis where he comes flying off into his spot, if you could dip under that and kind of meet him there. But we'll see if he's even playing. We got an even series. Sacramento, now the pressure shifts, right? It was in Kings fans, man, I respected the confidence, the excitement, the fandom for your team, but y'all talked a lot of trash. And here we sit now, and it feels kind of like things have flipped. And so we got a 3-game series, and yeah, man, those are my thoughts through the first 4 games. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm going to call it or I got a feeling on the series. Obviously, the Fox scenario changes things. If for whatever reason he can't go And that's another aspect of it, right? I call it the Brett Favre effect, because those of you that remember his career, he had this streak of games going where he never missed a game, even when he was hurt. But if you watched a lot of those games in Green Bay, he shouldn't have been playing. It was like, dude, you're hurting your team, but you just because you're trying to prove how tough you are. I mean, you're not really a good quarterback right now. And so that might be the decision for Fox, like, how much can you help the team? It is a hand, though. It's not like it's his knee or something. So perhaps his pace and speed, his pushing the ball, he can still get them into their offense, but maybe he's going to look to be more of a distributor than a shooter. That's, I've talked myself into that. I think that's probably what's going to happen moving forward. But Dub Nation, how you feeling? How you feeling now? A lot of people thought it was over. Let me know in the comments. We got Game 5 Wednesday in Sacramento. Dub Nation going to show up in Sac? Not likely, right? Anyway, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.